Hello, everyone. Lisa Smith here with Life by Design Coaching and Hypnotherapy. And today I want to share with you a technique that I use with all my clients, which is called EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, which is basically acupressure stimulation of points in your body that have a direct impact on your brain's ability to think and respond differently, to emote differently, and to allow you to be more in control of your emotions and your responses. So this is the basic technique that I'm going to be teaching today. And there's variations on the basic technique, and then there's different variations of the EFT. But let's just start with the basic technique today for you to begin to practice with. Now, the thing about EFT is to know that there is a combination of stimulating acupressure points on your body. With EFT, we use some of the upper level meridian points or acupressure points. There's many all around the body that acupuncturists use to help people with various physical and emotional issues. But we're just going to concentrate on about 8 to 10 main points on the upper area of the body and the hands. So the first thing you do with EFT is to identify that there's some kind of negative emotional state that you're trying to change, and then to identify what the emotion seems to be. Now, sometimes we have a jumble of emotions going on about something that happened, and uh, we might not know exactly where to start with the tapping. The thing is to try to identify what seems to be the dominant emotion that's present, and then once you identify that, you label it. Maybe it's anger, it's sadness, it's um, frustration, overwhelm, resentment, whatever it might be. And then give it a rating of 0 to 10 as far as the intensity level that it feels to you. So 10 is it feels totally off the charts, and 0, you don't feel it at all. Our goal is to get from whatever rating you start off with, whatever intensity level that it is, down to a 0. Now, at least if you get it down to a 3 or less, you're going to be less emotionally charged and you're going to be able to make better choices. But ideally, really, you want to get it down at least to a 3, but ideally down to a 0, so that you have total neutrality about what was bothering you just a few moments before. Usually it's going to take a few rounds at least of the tapping before you get from a high level down to a 0, but sometimes it can also happen fairly quickly. So once you've identified the emotion and then given it an intensity level of 0 to 10, 10 being the highest, then you're going to start the tapping. Now, the reason why we do the measurement on the 0 to 10 scale is because sometimes it's hard to identify a shift occurring. So if you can sense some idea of intensity, give it a number, then do a round of the tapping and check in with yourself. It will help you to determine what kind of shift has occurred. If you've gone from a 10 down to a 9, a 10 down to an 8, 10 down to a 7, or perhaps even sometimes you have even bigger shifts. The next thing that you're going to do is start the tapping, and the tapping always starts right here on the karate chop point of the side of the hand. You can do right hand or left hand, it doesn't matter, and sometimes people will do dual spots at the same time. So any place where there's a bilateral point on your body, left side and right side point, you can tap them both at the same time. So the karate chop point here, you're going to continually tap while you say a statement that identifies what the feeling is, and usually what the situation or the trigger is around the emotion. And then you're going to follow that up with a sort of a positive affirmation about the feeling. Even though you have this feeling, you still have a positive sense about yourself. So the basic setup statement that we use is a fill in the blank. It's even though I feel blank, fill it in with the emotion about blank. What is it that you're feeling? Um, or what's the situation that seems to have initiated the emotion for you, or perhaps the person? So even though I'm angry at John for being late, might be an example. Or even though I'm feeling really overwhelmed with all the work that I have to do. That's an example. And then the second part of the statement is usually something like, I forgive, love, and accept myself. Now, some people have a hard time saying, I love myself, and that's an issue to to eventually tap on. If you feel uncomfortable right now saying, I love myself, then just say something like, I forgive and accept myself, or I forgive and appreciate myself. So the setup statement would go something like, even though I'm feeling overwhelmed with all the work that I have to do, I fully and completely forgive, love, and accept myself. And you would say that 3 times while continually tapping on the karate chop point. So say we're working with the overwhelm. Even though I'm feeling really overwhelmed with all the work I have to get done, I fully and completely forgive, love, and accept myself. Even though I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now with all this work that I have to do, I fully and completely forgive, love, and accept myself. Even though I'm feeling really overwhelmed with all the work that I have to do right now, I fully and completely forgive, love, and accept myself anyway. Then you're going to go to the rest of the points. And with the rest of the points, you don't have to say that long statement. All you have to do is say at least what the emotion is, or the emotion and the trigger to it. So it might be this overwhelm, or this overwhelm with my workload. Okay. And when you're going to say that when you tap each of the remaining points. So the first point that you're going to start with here after the karate chop is the top of the head. So right in the middle of the top of your head. The next one's going to be the inside of the eye right here, or again on this side. So it's sort of where the bridge of your nose ends and the beginning of your eyebrow. So you can use 1 or 2 fingers in that point. Then you're going to go to the side of the eye point. So right here, it's not on the corner of your eye. It's back a little bit. It's not to the hairline. It's in a little bit. Okay. Or again, if I was doing this side here, or if I'm tapping both at the same time. And I would say again, the emotion, this overwhelm. Next point, underneath the eye, right on top of the bone socket here, this overwhelm. Next point is going to be under your nose in this little divot, this feeling of overwhelm. Next one is going to be right here in the what we call the chin point, or under the lip. It's actually not on the chin, it's in the little divot above the chin below the lip, this overwhelm. Next point is going to be collarbone point. For collarbone point, you want to try to move my necklace here. Okay. Feel these little nodules as your collarbone comes down, these little nodules right here. If you've got a little bit of a thicker neck, a little bit more skin here, it's harder sometimes to feel, but it's right before your collarbone comes into the V. You'll feel these 2 little nodules. You go just down below them, and that's your collarbone point right there. Okay, now don't get too hung up on the points being totally on top of them. If you're pretty close, it's still going to work. So collarbone point here, this overwhelm. Next point is going to be the underarm point. For women, it's a little bit easier to find. It's right where your bra strap is. For men, think about armpit, go down about 4 inches. All right. So I'm going to be tapping using my whole hand on the side here. Okay. Now, if you're doing the dual tapping, you can either do one of 2 ways. You can do what I call the hug, or you can do the monkey. Now, the monkey, I think, is a little more awkward, but if you have a large chest, sometimes it's hard to reach around and get those points. So this is what you could do. Or again, with single tapping, just reach across your body, reach across your body. And then the next point is going to be your wrist point right here, right where your wrist bends forward. That's the wrist point. Or again, if you're doing the bilateral tapping, you tap the wrists together. And then finally you end back up at the top of the head, this overwhelm. So the whole thing would look like this. Wow, oh my God, I'm feeling so overwhelmed right now. I don't even know which end is up. I don't know what to do. I'm feeling stressed. Oh my gosh, I need to get rid of this overwhelm so I can focus and I can get stuff done. Oh, I can use EFT. All right, so how strong is this overwhelm right now? Ugh, feels like it's off the charts. It's a 10. Well, even though I feel the sense of overwhelm right now with all the work I have to do, I fully and completely forgive, love, and accept myself. Even though I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now with all the work that I have to do, I fully and completely forgive, love, and accept myself. Even though I'm really overwhelmed right now with all this work, I fully and completely forgive, love, and accept myself. Top of the head, this feeling of overwhelm, this feeling of overwhelm, this feeling of overwhelm, this feeling of overwhelm. Under the nose, this feeling of overwhelm, chin point, all this overwhelm about the work I have to do. Collarbone, feeling overwhelmed about all this work. Under the arm, feeling overwhelmed about all this work. Wrist points, so overwhelmed with all the work that has to be done. Top of the head, this feeling of overwhelm with all this work. And you take a deep breath in, you let it go. It helps to release the energy of the emotion that you just kind of stirred up a little bit. And then once you take that breath, you let it go, then just check in again with your feelings. How intense does that feeling of overwhelm feel now? 0 to 10. Give it a rating. So maybe it's an 8 now. So we moved down a couple of points. It's still strong, but it doesn't feel as strong as it did a moment ago. So we're making progress, but we're still at an 8, a high level. So what you want to do is just repeat the process exactly as you did it before. Even though I have all this feeling of overwhelm, you could even say, even though I still have some overwhelm, I fully and completely forgive, love, and accept myself. Or even though I'm still feeling overwhelmed at a level of an 8, I fully and completely forgive, love, and accept myself. Even though I'm still feeling overwhelmed at a level of an 8, I fully and completely forgive, love, and accept myself. Even though I'm still feeling overwhelmed at a level of an 8, I fully and completely forgive, love, and accept myself. Top of the head, this feeling of overwhelm, or you could say this remaining overwhelm, 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 this remaining feeling of overwhelm, this remaining feeling of overwhelm, this remaining feeling of overwhelm with all the work I have to do, this remaining overwhelm with all the work I have to do, this feeling of overwhelm about all this work. And then you take a deep breath in, you let it go, and tune back into the feeling 0 to 10. What level would you give it now? Give it a number. If it's not at a 0 yet, just lather, rinse, and repeat. So have fun practicing that and seeing what kind of results you can get. Sometimes just the basic formula is enough to do the trick. If you just stick with the rounds until you get a 0. Sometimes you need to do some variations of how you're phrasing, or sometimes we'll do a little bit of variation on the tapping. But practice with the basic technique now, and I'll have some more videos in the future to teach you some of the variations. If you're interested in getting a little cheat sheet, a visual for the technique and all the different things to say and where to tap, just make a request. Email me at my website, lisa@hypnocoachlisa.com. You'll have it down here on the screen, and I'll be happy to send that to you. Thanks and have a fabulous day. Keep tapping.